Well, good morning and welcome to Move Early, Move Often. I am Blake Martin and it is Functional Friday. Um, boy, Functional Fridays are all about finding these movements that are important in our lives. Some of them we've forgotten, some of them we let go as we move along through our lives. And it's important to recapture them or to at least pay them homage. And they have really important functions in our life, hence the name Functional Friday. Today we're going to be looking at some quadrupedal movement. Quadrupedal movement shows up in a lot of places. It shows up kind of well, when we're falling, when we're getting off the ground, when we're moving to the ground. Um, and it's part of fall recovery, so it's important to have that ability. We're going to spend a little bit of time warming up and then we're going to get right to it. I think my camera might want to be a little lower there, Blake. You can do it. You can do it. You got it. Nice. Okay. Really proud of myself there. We're going to be on our hands and knees for quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by warming up our wrists. Just take your wrists, interlace your fingers, and make little balls. Just go in a circle. Let's go in the opposite direction. I find it really hard to go in the opposite direction. All right. Let's bend our wrist backwards. Do the opposite one as well, backwards. And then we'll go downward with our wrist. Fingers going down. And then on the opposite hand. Loose movements of our shoulders, just our shoulders going backwards. Yeah. Elbows. So we're getting those in there. We will be using our shoulder girdle as well. So let's get the whole arm in there. Opposite direction, shoulders rolling forward. Elbows, so that we're getting more of the shoulder joint. And then the whole thing. Whee! It's going around. Goes around, comes around. Down on our hands and knees in our quad position. Your quad position should be with your knees under your hips and your hands under your shoulders. Maybe slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Some of you imagine that you have very wide shoulders and you put your hands way out like this. I've seen it. I've seen it in real life. They should just kind of fall naturally beneath you, and but just a little bit wider than that. Okay. The last important thing is the neutrality of my spine. I don't want my back to be all hunched over. We're going to go through variations today, and sometimes your back will be a little bit more rounded than others. And I want to be careful that my head isn't drawn way back like this, or forward. Nice long neutral neck. Beautiful. Okay, good to go. Okay. Oh, why did I put you in your quad position? I was going to warm me up a little bit more. Let's just rock from side to side like this. And let's do circles. Circles, circles. And let's do circles in the opposite direction. Okay. The basic crawl is where we're going to start, and it's the most kind of natural thing. It's like walking, where one leg comes forward and the opposite arm comes forward. I'll turn sideways so you can have a look at what I'm doing. So here I am. I'm just starting here, and I'm just right knee and left hand, left knee. And I'm just walking forward. And I'm just going to go backwards as well. I just want to experience that in both directions. And we're just going to crawl like that. So just come down on your hands and knees in your quad position, and we're going to move forward. And this is hands and knees, right knee and hand together. And just take it slow. And think about your coordination and your smoothness. How smooth are you moving? And see if you can move it backwards. All right? And maybe you want to crawl in a circle. See how you end up shortening on one side so that you can, and lengthening on the other side. And this may all seem very prosaic and kind of like, well, why are we doing this? Okay, well, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Don't worry. I learned how to crawl when I was a baby, and that's why I learned how to walk, you might say. So now what we're going to do is, if you can, if it's available to you, I want you to just lift your knees off the mat. Okay? So now here we are. We're up on our hands and our toes. My toes are curled under. And I'm going to walk opposite hand and leg. Right hand, left foot. Left hand, right foot together. And just kind of move around a little bit in your space. Now, if I told you all the muscles that are being activated right now, you'd say, well, that's crazy, Blake. How is that even possible? Now, if you can, try and go backwards. Okay, so left hand and right foot together, right hand and foot together. It's much more difficult going backwards in this higher up position. So pause for a second. All right, just have a look here. What I'm doing is my knees are still pretty low. I'm trying to keep my spine neutral, and I'm being as light. I feel like one of those Boston Dynamic dog robots. So I'm being as light as possible on my hands and feet. I'm keeping, so when I'm opposing in the walk, I'm allowing my hands to lift and place lightly. Let's go back to that again. Let's take another try at it. All right. So in your crawl position, your quad position, lift your knees and opposite hand and foot together. And see if you can just move that backwards. And keep it smooth. Now, your head will be slightly lifted so you can see where you're going, because this is a movement, this is a form of locomotion. Pause for a second. Next variation. So we've done hands and knees, we've gone high. Now we're going to widen it out a little bit. We're going to kind of go diagonally. So what's going to happen is we're going to reach towards the midline with our foot and out with our hand, and then we're going to reach across. Reach across. All right? So see if you can do that. Up on your hands. Foot moves toward the midline, and now your hand moves toward the midline. So we're crossing on a diagonal. All right? And now let's try that from the opposite side. Let's kick the coffee table. See how that goes. So now I'm going to move this foot, this outside foot, my left foot, my right hand together. Okay. So that diagonal movement is more complex. We have to think about moving our bodies outward. So give that a few tries on each side. So moving in, together. Right. I can't do it backwards. I get confused. And one more time, going to the opposite side. So trying to move your hands and feet at the same time. All right. So the movement forward and diagonal requires that your movement is scaled a little bit differently between your hands and your feet. It's not just well, it's not straightforward, if you follow me. So what you need to do is you need to move that hand out and the foot in as soon as they go forward. So you might want to come up here on your hands and feet here and just practice moving that across. And then try with the opposite hand and foot. And then together. Let's go back and let's do that on the opposite side. Right? So out, back, out, back, out, back. And then the opposite leg and hand, out, back, out, back. This is way less natural for me, so, and then see if you can put it together. Right. Ooh, I did it backwards better though. That was good. All right. Last variation on this particular thing. I think if you're like me a little bit, you may be feeling it in your, a little bit in your quads. If that's so, or if you're having trouble doing it up on your hands and toes, you can practice exactly the same movement just on your hands and knees. So do that with me, just hands and knees now. In and out. And let's do this crossed movement so that we're moving diagonally. It's a very complex movement that's generated from two very simple movements. And we'll do it on the opposite leg now. Out and back. And then the opposite, out and back. And then let's try it, hands and knees. All right. Good, nice. Nice. Okay, one final variation that I find very challenging personally, and it's a really wide variation. So we're going to take this whole thing that we were having nice and under our hands and feet, and we're going to spread it out, and we're just going to go forward with a spread crawl. So if you have a look here, I'm not in my standard quad position. I'm wider, but I'm really stable. You can use this to get under things. This is really useful for moving around and beneath stuff. Oh, don't hit your table. Get in trouble from the neighbors. So this is useful for moving around and under stuff. You just obviously shouldn't lift your hips when you're doing it. So nice wide stance and just move forward. And then try it backwards. Super wide. You're a little bit lower, but you're scrambling on your hands and feet. Right foot and left hand together, and left hand and right foot together. And back. All right. Okay, we started with the simple crawl. We moved it up onto hands and feet, keeping a nice low crawling movement with oppositional movement. We moved it into forward and back space. We saw how it converted, one part being shorter and one part being longer if we turned. And then we moved on the diagonal. Finally, we crawled on the diagonal as well, and then we widened it out. These are just really simple basic crawls, but you can see that they start engaging. My heart rate is up, might be just because I'm talking, but I think it's kind of because it's working me out a little bit. But it's working a lot of the muscles close to your spine, your core, hip flexors, your quadriceps, and other muscles down around your hips. And it's really awesome for developing upper body strength as well. And that is one of the reasons why we do these sorts of movements. It's a really good functional way to develop movement that is useful in everyday life. So you've moved early. I hope you remember to move often. And I hope you have an awesome day and a great weekend. It is, after all, Friday. Take care, and we'll see you on Monday.